Before Tanner ends up going on a date with Davia, what is your relationship status?
I don't know. That was the problem. So I spent when Davia came in, it was like in the evening time. So we've spent the whole day together. I had given him my rose the day before, and we've had a very like less intense relationship compared to Brayden. They're two different people, and I kind of usually just match the other person's energy. So we're not like very touchy-feely in general, right? But we hadn't talked that day. Like I was hanging out with like other people, my friends, and there wasn't really like any like time that he pulled me away where we had a conversation about our relationship at all, like where it was going to progress. So when you see me losing my mind, it was also from the sense of like, I just don't even know where we stand. So it might come off like hypocritical and I'm getting karma, but at least in Brayden's situation, he had somewhat of an idea of where our relationship stood. And so I really had no idea. I mean, I knew he wanted to be open, but still, I gave him the rose the night before. Has that changed? Like we talked about this a few days ago. Like I still don't know.
Did you want to be open, or did you try to have that conversation with Tanner?
I didn't go out of my way to have a conversation with him that day because I was like kind of putting the ball in his court to do that. I had an idea that like, I mean, of course, I would never tell him not to go on the date. Like he can go, but a little bit more like understanding that, yeah, it's my birthday. We had talked about it. We had planned it. Like there was a lot of things that were addressed that maybe a little bit of more, I'm not with my friends. I'm not with my family. Like I'm here alone on a beach with bugs and heat. And it would have been nice if maybe you tried to put that into consideration prior to accepting it, or at least let me know where our relationship stood.
Do you think if it wasn't your birthday, you would have felt differently? 100%. Or do you think it was...
Oh, yeah.
Really? Okay. You're a big birthday girl.
And I know everyone's like, I'm so sick of grown adults saying no, like I will do this for the rest of my life. I'm sorry. But I'm also alone on this beach. Like I'm not with my friends and family that I normally am with. So it's going to be heightened, of course.
Okay, but like taking a step back now and like looking at it, like it's just unfortunate. Correct. Your birthday falls on the same timeline as 100%. Paradise. So can you really blame him?
I mean, I can't. Okay. I was born on that day, and I probably shouldn't have told anybody that it was my freaking birthday. Okay.
Oh,
but
they know.
At the same time, I think in general, regardless if it's my birthday or not, having a conversation about where you stood when you had gotten the rose, since we're going to focus on roses in the season, the night before would have been nice because he had all day to do it before that date. And that was just where I was coming from.
And then I feel like you touched on this. Oh, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so like the chat went bad, right? Like the situation wasn't great. There was a lot of tension between you and Tanner. What do you think he could have done, or was there anything he could have done specifically differently that would have made the whole situation go over better, other than not go on the date with Davia? Because I think he was probably always going to end up going on that date. Like, is there something he could have said, done if he'd pulled you that morning and you'd had a conversation about like where your relationship was going?
I wouldn't, honestly. I mean, it's subjective, but I don't think that the conversation that we had prior to him going on the date with Davia went horrible. I think it was quick and to the point. And since like, you know, Davia came up and I gave her a hug goodbye and I told her to have fun. Like that's how it ended. So I think if we had at least had some understanding and like at least, touched base on where our relationship was, it wouldn't have been as intense as it ended up being. But you're worried that you're going to get, you know, effed over on this beach. That is your biggest concern. And in that moment, I was definitely feeling like I just got like, he's just like an F boy. And that was just in that moment, you know, where I was.
Yeah. So then what would your response be to the people that are saying you're being hypocritical because you went on a date with Tanner after a few days with Brayden, and now Tanner's doing the same to you and you're really upset about it?
I also feel like you do kind of mention the fact that you had expressed to Brayden where your relationship
I don't think the relationship's the same. I just wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of like address
to that. I would say, I mean, everybody is entitled to feel how they feel from they're in the relationship just as much as I am. And in my understanding and why I think it's coming, like I had spoken to Brayden about where our relationship stood and where I saw the rest of Paradise progressing. And so but in contrast, like me and Tanner hadn't had that conversation in a couple of days. I'd also spent more days with Tanner than I had with Brayden, definitely more hours. I mean, we had an entire date together, then we had a whole nother day together, then we had a whole rose ceremony day together. So there was a lot more hours and time spent of getting to know each other than even in comparison to Brayden. So it is going to be more intense. Oh, and then my whole day of my birthday. So that's like 4 days compared to 2. And a lot of that wasn't even quality time because it was a lot going on.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the main takeaway from what you're saying is that you had a very clear status of a relationship with Brayden, and it had been a short period of time. Whereas when it came to Tanner,
it was a little more blurry.
It was a little bit more depth in that relationship, more time spent together. And when it came down to him going on this date on your birthday, you're kind of like, okay, but what's going on? Like, what's going on here? Like, it was a lot less clear.
It was. But I can see where that can be like looked at as karma, hypocritical, like all the things that are being said, like you did the same thing. But in my eyes, I did speak to Brayden, like I had talked to him